Okay.
All right, so why? Because of one thing, authenticity. Some of my favorite quote caps, gangster rap records are the ones in which I feel as if I'm looming in the ghetto.
Oh damn!
Well,
This is a 2016 review. I have.
So what the fuck? What? Like, it's not like he at what time period would it ever have been okay to write that?
Never.
But that's a good point. There are reviews on RYM of any album. You could throw a dart, and now they're a little.
2003 could end that with a knock it back. It still would not be cool. Like the fuck. Yeah. Looming through the ghetto.
You know what that feels like? It feels like a like something someone would tell one of the main characters in like an Atlanta episode or like the Boondocks or something.
That's like villain in a Donald Glover piece.
Yeah,
Atlanta season 3 all over.
Yeah, it's like it would literally just be like someone goes to the Brian was it Tommy Henry?
Hero in a Aaron Sorkin piece.
We're Aaron Sorkifying Atlanta.
Somebody in the trial of the Chicago 6 would have said this. Trial of Chicago 7 would have said this.
Oh my gosh.
Abby Hoffman would have been looming through the ghetto.
Oh my gosh. That's a horrifying thought. I don't even want to know.
Aaron Sorkin.
That's probably slept with all the lights on when he heard Tommy Wright, I Creep at Night.
He had his flashlight on his iPhone.
He had the nightlight next to the bed. Oh my gosh.
This has such a low appeal. The Venn diagram on people who would listen to this and like anything of value is like a circle.
It's so low. But there's always room for more people. There's always room for more Aaron Sorkin hate. So people understand.
You can never have enough dunking on Aaron Sorkin. But seriously, don't write sentences like this. Stop. Redact that review. I'm telling you as a friend, as your close personal friend, don't do this. Also, I haven't even introduced the goddamn episode.
True fashion. This is a throwback episode. We're dropping everybody in.
This is going to be an emergency about that line that we were going to break in like Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room.
CNN graphics getting thrown up. This is.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster.
But no.
Anyway, let's try and keep Aaron Sorkin as far away from DJ Paul as possible.
I concur.
Yeah, let's try and keep these worlds separate. This is the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast where we're trying to talk about 3-6 Mafia, but RYM keeps bringing us back to Aaron Sorkin. So the first time we did this, the world compelled us, by the world I mean our good friend Christian, to talk about how 3-6 Mafia related to Marxism, I believe.
Yeah, DJ Paul was Stalin, if you recall from part 1. That was a through line.
I don't recall all the one-to-ones, and this made me sad because now I'm reading a book about Stalinist Russia, which is really good. Like the day-to-day about it, it's really depressing, and so I'm wondering what like Juicy J would do in a bread line.
Unfortunately, we have no intel on that. Maybe Christian could have told us, but we do have a special guest for this part of the episode.
We actually caught a ghost this time. We got John lookAghost, one of our favorite guests to have on. Thank you for coming on. Being here today. Peace. We have two dads who shirk their responsibilities to their children to talk about 3-6 Mafia.
Hey, I'm on solo dad all weekend. I did my duties.
I did too, actually. It was terrible. My kid is teething, and my kid feels like she's been teething for 9 months now, which is weird because my kid's been alive for 9 months and she's only been teething for 3, but it feels like 9. But this is not dad chat, nor is this warehouse chat, Biden boys, depression dudes, or anything else. We are talking about 3-6 Mafia, but we already talked about their main albums when we were with Christian. So we're going to be talking about solo albums and like side projects, formative stuff, like the DJ Paul Spring mixes with Juicy J, the Lord Infamous, the Koops Nika, the Juicy and Luger tapes from later in his career. We're going to be talking about all that stuff. So we've got a wide variety of things to talk about, some of which I've been able to listen to in between trying to raise my child. So it's weird because I've had a lot of bipolar back and forth. Like I'm trying to play child appropriate stuff in between, like putting like not child. Like I talked about this on the ICP episode where I had like clowns talking about like my homie's baby mama in my headphone. Like that, I don't want to think about that song anymore. It's almost as weird like when you've got like Juicy J talking about his Juicy J things while I'm like then have to turn that off and put on the Steven Universe like instrumental soundtrack to like feed my daughter her mush. So it's been weird going back and forth in my head to try and like cram for this podcast. But it's been worthwhile for a lot of reasons. Hopefully one of the things we do in this podcast is try and eliminate people to stuff that I think they've slept on. And I think one of those things is definitely the Crunchy Black Soul album On My Own.
John, this is your favorite album that we're going to talk about, right? This is it.
Extremely underrated.
I found the Tard and Chopped version actually has 9 bonus songs on it. So that's, I heard all of them. They're great. No, but actually there's at least one album on this podcast I'm going to talk about that I hadn't really heard in full until I listened to it as homework. And that I do want to talk about. And there's one album here that I think we'll get to when we get to it. So anyway, even though Christian's not here in the physical or whatever, he's here in spirit. He does have a really good list on OYM where he goes through like 3-6 Mafia chronologically. I think that would be useful if everybody wants to bring it up. And I think we could use that.
That's really great.
And I think we should start with probably the DJ Paul mixes early, like the first 93 mix maybe be a good place to start.
Yeah, I think that works for me because we did a lot of we did the whole like main 3-6 Discog, and around this time was like some of their most like fruitful underground period.
And we don't have to hit on everything in detail, but obviously stuff's more relevant than others. So, and like a lot of stuff he did here was like the Juicy and Lord Infamous collabs. So,
yeah, luckily I didn't have to do a lot of homework for this pod because I spent like most of my early to mid 20s just like listening to all this shit nonstop.
Yeah, that was the thing with the first podcast. Again, like I did not spend a whole lot of my life listening to this stuff. Like, so it's illuminating for me in a lot of ways. Like, it's weird because the Juicy stuff in the 2010s I listened to a lot. Like, I kind of came to him late. And, the 3-6 stuff that was popular in the early 2000s, we covered this in the first pod. I was into that. But other than that, like, I respected them and, like, downloaded all of it because I'm, like, a fucking music junkie. I downloaded that stuff. But I never listened to it in full. Like, so I can kind of grow to have an appreciation for it by listening to it as homework for the podcast. But I don't have the same kind of appreciation of growing up with it like you guys did. And something that's weird about listening to it is I think that, like, of all the artists, I think Wiz is kind of an internet guy that would never admit he's an internet guy, but like he's a young guy who came up listening to this shit. I think that sort of same way, and that's why he was able to like make Juicy's career have that second act.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of associate Wiz with like Odd Future, like when they blew up in the early 2010s. Like he was kind of around them.
He was, but the sound was different, and I think he specifically made it so Juicy had that second act of his career. And he, as like, one of the things I said to Caleb was that like I'm listening to these Juicy tapes, and a lot of people are like mimicking the way Wiz raps, and maybe Wiz is mimicking the way Juicy rapped before, but it just seems like the same sort of like similar, like I'm not going to try and do it, but like, you know what I'm talking about, like beat sort of rapping.
No, I can see that because he feels kind of like a piece with Juicy when they're collaborating together, because their sounds kind of fit so easily, and it doesn't have to sound forced, kind of like how it didn't sound forced when he was when he raps with Currency.
Yeah,
Right.
It still blows my mind that they collaborated on a Space Ghost Perk beat.
And I feel like what Wiz is doing is he's kind of taking like Juicy sound and kind of, when I say suburbanizing it, that sounds insulting, but he's kind of making it acceptable for East Coast people a little bit. Like he's making it weed music as opposed to like hardcore drug Memphis music.
Yeah, like don't talk about the devil as much, please.
Yeah, no, you don't get a lot of devil in Wiz music. Like Wiz actually, maybe we'll even talk about Thank God a little bit. Like, so
Yeah, he seems like a godly type.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of a half-formed thesis I had where it was just like, and I kind of felt this just listening. Like, I just associate. I think it's because I listened to a lot more Juicy, honestly, when he was doing that than coming up, because I just listened to the 3-6 singles in the 2000s, more or less. I didn't have as much. I listened to Mystic Styles later, and I loved it, and I listened to it a lot after the fact, not as much as you guys. So I just kind of heard Juicy's comeback stuff before I heard his initial stuff. And I felt like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hadn't. I mean, it was a different kind of period for me, but I hadn't heard any Juicy solo that wasn't. I think like probably Stay Trippy would be the first like solo 3-6 solo album from a 3-6 member that I had heard, because I was only, I was in early high school at the time, so I hadn't like indoctrinated myself into 3-6 probably until like the year after, I would say. And so yeah, Stay Trippy era where Juicy was like the fun guy. Not that he like wasn't before, but it's just a different persona. I think that he kind of had this like career second win, starting with Blue Dream and Lean, etc. That he just became like the fun party guy, and Wiz was kind of like the fun, easygoing party guy. I mean, that was kind of his like aura. He had songs with Snoop where they just talked about like smoking and having a good time, and it kind of fit seamlessly.
But Juicy always had that harder edge, and people didn't know why. And like, again, I always make fun of people for like, oh, the first Juicy J song is Dark Horse with Katy Perry, but it's like I think there's a whole generation of people who only know Juicy through like Blue Dream and Lean, and to a lesser extent Rubber Man Business, and we'll get to it. But this is a whole roundabout way, getting way back to the beginning, way back to the stuff I wanted to talk about, the initial stuff, and why that was a little surprising to me to hear it that way. So
it's such a different, very like rugged kind of, dusty VHS sound in a way, but it's great.
Yeah, there's a certain charm like to the recorded with a potato quality to a lot of that earlier.
It's has that blown out quality that gives it a charm to it. And I want to talk about this like when we get to the Come With Me to Hell stuff, where where Paul remastered it. And it's like, is that a positive? I mean, obviously, it's always the artist's purview whether or not you want to remaster your own work, right? Like, I mean, we shit on George Lucas; he fucked with his own, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess the idea with George Lucas is you didn't need to do that. You had enough money; it was already perfect as it was. But like, I guess you got to think of it from Paul's perspective. He was broke. Was George Lucas broke? Like, comparatively. I don't know. Like, that's a weird comparison to make, but like
it's a different sound when it's remastered for sure.
Everybody's gonna think it's perfect the first time you heard it, and everybody who made it is always gonna think you can improve upon what you made. I think.
Yeah, I go back and forth on that. I mean, I appreciate the remastering, and he remastered Sweet Robbery Part 1 a couple years ago, and it sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
What's weird is that I listened to the remaster first, and then I posted in my log that I listened to the wrong version of this, and then Ghost posted something in the Discord about it, and then I listened to the original. Well, I did not get a magical gift of the cassette from somewhere. I listened to a Soul Seek rip of the cassette, and
Soul Seek rip YouTube. It's the only way to do it.
Right, and God bless Soul Seek, by the way, because that's the only way you're going to hear some of this shit. And so yeah, the remaster sounded originally I was like, this has a lot of G-Funk influence. It sounds a lot of G-Funk, and then you listen to the original cassette, and it sounds like when we talk about Serial Killaz, a lot like the same way, where it's just like a lot more basic and I don't say basic in a negative way, but a lot more building blocks, not Memphis type thing, like not more of their distinct regional sound, but a lot more like everything was trying to sound loud and menacing. I should say that. Mm-hmm. And I think Paul was trying to sound loud and menacing, like LA and New York were all trying to sound loud and menacing in the same way. And then eventually Memphis learned to sound loud and menacing in the slower, more distinct own way by Mystic Styles.
Yeah, when you listen to Juicy J Volume 5, which is like the earliest Juicy J solo volume that's surfaced so far. It's like a ton of West Coast samples, and is basically just like a glorified like DJ mix using a bunch of West Coast.
And West Coast influence has always been there. Like Screw has whole West Coast tapes. Like it's not like they were alert. Like there's this whole idea that there was always regional beef with everything just because of Biggie and Tupac. That was not the case. Regions always borrowed from other regions.
Mm-hmm. Which is like essential, and as far as I know, like an essential backbone of like how hip hop was able to grow and expand, because that's the artists kind of interacting with each other through the music was huge.
Look at Master P, like he moved from the West Coast.
Yeah,
definitely a big
role. Like the Diplomats were named Diplomats because that was the whole thing they did, was that they were diplomatic. They like got SAS from the UK. They did Scissor. I mean, like that was their way to market liquor and not pay Southern people, but also it was like, also like kind of they did Southern music. Like they tried to take influences from everywhere. They did a song with Game. Like, it's always supposed to be like reaching out to other communities. Like beef is just you have a fucking personal problem with somebody, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
And pay you money.
Yeah. Ghost, what do you think is the
working on the new Kendrick album that's going to suck?
What was that?
What do you think in terms of like these solo projects would be like the ideal starting point? You're thinking probably like the first.
Yes.
They come to me with Hell stuff. Those two volumes.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of have to start with DJ Paul and Lord Infamous and Backyard Posse.
Right.
They were kind of doing their own thing separate from Juicy J at the time. So this was like, I think they formed like, I read like 1989, but definitely like early 90s. Yeah, I think it would probably start with like Portrait of a Serial Killer. Just go through the list.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I don't have much to say about that one though. It's like 3 songs, and I don't.
Where would you say like the first essential track, like the first essential tape is though? Like, I mean, we have the formative stuff. Where would you say the first essential tape is? Like 94, right? Like 93, 94-ish era.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, probably Serial Killaz. That's 93.
Right.
And I re-listened to that one today after, you logged it, and it was better than I remember.
I'm a little surprised because it really hit me a little bit. Like, I mean, it's not like a 5-star tape, but it's a good tape. And I mean, I don't think it has the Memphis identity to it so much. Like that was what I was saying. Is it feels like the other thing that struck me about the tape was that the first half feels like it's more Like there's half that feels like kind of more brag rap and half that feels more like horror rap. Like I feel like they're still kind of feeling out their identity on that.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off strong, like, Where's the Bud? Like, right out.
Right. Where's the 5
Classic.
minute bud at the start is the best track. I feel like there are some songs on here that feel like they don't necessarily have a direction necessarily. They sound good, but they don't have a direction.
Yeah, it's not a cohesive tape at all, but it does have some really good songs.
Yeah. There's also
I like it. It's a vibe, I would say. Like overall, like it's a real good vibe tape. Like smoke to it, listen to it, like, but it's not Devil's Playground level type thing.
Yeah, a lot of it reminds me of basically the Lord Infamous solo tape that came out the next year.
right. Yeah, because that one still also feels like formative in a way where they're not like.
I mean, I would say Lord Infamous, like he came out like fully formed rapper. He didn't have like the songs and the beats necessarily like to form the classic songs yet.
Yeah, I mean, Lord Infamous. I mean, in the first episode, I did say this, but Lord Infamous is like my favorite from the group, and so just he as a rapper just amazes me constantly. Whether it was in this early formative stuff, or even like a couple of like late career rhymes. But yeah,
I didn't know he did with he did like the cloud rap stuff. Apparently, I downloaded it. I didn't listen to it, but apparently he did stuff with was it Underachievers or he did something like he did like a cloud EP and something else. No, wait, was that Lord Infamous? No, it was Koopsta. I'm sorry, that was Koopsta.
Lord Infamous, yeah, because Lord Infamous passed in 20.
You sound really stupid. It was Koopsta who did, yeah. Koopsta
Right.
That,
right.
but we're
I mean, I'm not surprised because there's a clear and obvious connection, whether it's in the sampling in the beats and things like that.
Yeah, Lord Infamous time.
Yeah, I think Lord Infamous is pretty obviously the best rapper out of the crew. I mean, a lot of people either say it's him or Koopsta.
Yeah, there's not really like a necessarily like a wrong answer per se, but those guys definitely in terms of like flow, you can hear it. You can hear it for 20 plus years, down the line of what they did for hip hop.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about like listening to them when I did, they hadn't really like been co-opted like by A$AP Rocky and everyone else yet at the time, but then like once more and more people like started adopting the triplet flow and sampling Memphis beats, like it just became more and more obvious that how groundbreaking they were to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually like just gets better with time, honestly. Just with more and more perspective. I felt like, I loved so many of these albums in high school and college, and you don't visit them for a while, and then you go back, and you're like, oh, it's actually better than I remembered almost. Yeah,
it's like, I mean, when I first started listening to these tapes, like I think I found like some MediaFire archive someone linked that had like most of them, and it just seems like they're finally like contextualized now, like the way they were meant to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time, but because I think there was this bias against Southern rap for a long time, just based upon mainstream perception.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Regionalism. We've kind of railed against that always, and on other episodes too. Like but that really has turned around.
And so we were at I'm sorry.
I guess would that bring us to the "Come With Me to Hell" stuff? Because
do the first one.
We're talking about the remasters as well, because
so that was 93 as well. And one thing I mentioned this, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, but like Lord Infamous is kind of like, he's funny, but he's not like kind of beating you over the head with the jokes. So like some of the offhanded stuff is really funny, like the little lines on this. Just going back and listening to it because I hadn't heard it in a while. Like Lord Infamous is more needs to get more credit for his humor.
Yeah, his rhymes are fucking funny. And I saw a YouTube comment about it the other day that was like, has anyone noticed that, Lord Infamous is kind of inspired by dance hall flows? And that made me think, yeah, I can kind of see it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start to think about Lord Infamous punchlines, I felt a little bit like, I guess, Big L, but not really. Like, just in the dryness of it. But
I mean, he did say that he was gonna like push someone down the stairs after he shoots them or something. Like just some like little stuff here and there that was just like really funny. Because of course, like as a threat, you're just like Jesus Christ. But actually, the way it's delivered is like kind of not played for laughs, but just in a way that is like
there was a way there where you could be a comic in that era and not be an edgelord comic. And I think like Big L Method a little bit had that. Like,
yeah, it didn't feel forced.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Lick My Nuts is like proto Cumtown shit, right?
Yeah. Well, really, what really it was I mean, down the road, like the Slob on My Knob and how many renditions it had and inspired, like that was the one that people gravitated to.
I talked about the Wiz album. He still references that, like slob on my knob. Yeah, bitch, I admitted that. Like he's still proud of it. Like that, we're still coming back to that. Like,
yeah, what Juicy wrote that when he was like 13 or 14.
I mean, yeah, slob on my knob. Like, who could have possibly come up with that one? Like,
yeah, you had to be.
It really takes you a second. You have to have very you come up with slob on my knob.
J. Cole could have never came up with slob.
He could go double platinum with no features, but he didn't write Slob on My Knob.
Therefore, ratio, career invalidated. L plus Juicy better.
I'm really jumping ahead of it, but at least he did not have a J. Cole feature on it.
No, but don't worry, J. Cole will always pop into your album to drop some gross sex bars if you want him to.
32 of them, because everybody else gets 16 bars, but J. Cole always gets to go on twice as long as everybody else.
Yeah. Gosh. Frustrating. But yeah, I mean, this is
hard time bingo. That's like your center. I don't know if J. Cole or Logic is your center square, but you got J. Cole there. But
isn't there some J. Cole song about losing his virginity or something?
That's correct. Yes, that was like one of the songs that like.
It was probably called Center Square too, because he lost his center square.
No, it was. This is like a big J. Cole song.
Square.
It was Wet Dreams. That's what it's called.
Oh man!
Of course, it's called fucking
with a Z at the end of it.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. I listened to that one semi recently.
Cheats. It was called Wet Dreams with a Z. Like fuck out.
Yeah, that was like a legitimately big song. That was
popular.
Yeah,
which says a lot of things.
It does say a lot. People really like that song. I never understood it, but this is why we're doing a podcast about 3 6 Mafia, not J. Cole.
So I can make the Charles Bronson face about J. Cole.
So Come With Me to Hell Part 1 has
no, we're talking about J. Cole because we're talking about 1994 3 6 Mafia.
1,000 Blunts though, I fucking love that song, even though it's not a song, it's just basically a glorified beat with
one part over and over and over. But I did think when I listened to it that I'd never realized that Danny Brown pretty much stole that for Blunt After Blunt, like at least like the idea, like probably.
It's also remember that that's the main sample driving Smoke Trees Fuck Hoes on Six Kiss.
Yeah, holy shit, that you're right. Because I just listened to Six Kiss.
Oh my gosh, that
I was also getting really into Lil B around the time I listened to a lot of early 3 6.
I feel like I really started thinking about everything Lil B, like all the samples Lil B took from stuff I like. It would just, we could have a podcast where I just go, oh my God, dude, what? Yeah. And then it'd be like the Joe Rogan experience.
No, but Lil B, I mean, immense like rap historian, like with that shit.
No, that's one of the best things about Lil B is you just realize, wait, that's that weird beat from where? Wait, that flow came from where? And then it's like, it doesn't seem as dumb as you thought at the end. Like,
and he'll talk about it like in songs. He'll be like, "Shout out to blank, like this is for you."
I was honestly pretty ignorant of New Orleans hip hop until Lil B introduced me to like a lot of stuff, like through his samples and songs.
The Lil B New Orleans tape where he does "This Is America," but This Is the Bass God.
Oh. So good.
He did another one too. That was one where he covered a bunch of like mainstream songs and redid them.
Toxicity too. I'm pretty sure that's where he does Toxicity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like,
it is.
Rapper Alive.
Oh, 05 fuck 'em. 05 fuck 'em.
Well, no, the one that I'm referring to was after 05 fuck 'em, but it was God damn it, what's it called? There's so many little B tapes. I'm now scrolling through the.
05 fuck 'em. So dense. I can't even remember everything on it.
I think Thugged Off, Pissed Off.
Well, the one that I was talking about was Options, which came out in 2018, which has like a bounce. It has like a New Orleans bounce section.
There's also one that has like a 6-minute like Audicur beat on it for some reason. Yeah,
the genres on it are like bounce, like West Coast, and conscious hip hop. I swear to God, those are the genres.
It's got to be the only release with all those tags together.
Yeah, the one that I was talking about was he did
first put a Comic Sans font on his cover. Lil B is the only artist I let put Comic Sans on their cover.
He did This Is the Bass God for This Is America, but he also did Take Hayes the Race, but his based race. That's what.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was talking about. Yeah, he just like it was just
an accomplishment that Bass got taken back because they really did actually take that. They had a guy who went around hitting people with a stick, calling himself Based Stick Man, and that guy was like popular and got paid to go talk to people.
Dark time.
His name was Based Stick Man. And he also was at the Capitol. Yeah.
Dark times. But
we're still in dark time. Very dark time.
Well, it just hasn't ended. But like you said, we're not veering into
but at least Bass got taken back from the guy with the stick.
Extremely true. True.
I'm to this right now being like, this is the first one of 3 months.
When you mentioned 1,000 Blunts, it reminded me, do you think that was like proto Ain't Barring That, where they do they'd have like the one phrase, essentially the one or two phrases, and it kind of gets like repeated for the whole song, and the song is more of an extended beat than like an actual full
it feels like
song.
It easily fit on an Underground Volume 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's a quality that reappeared. Because they did, and I know on the ones we're about to talk about, they did. They would have. I think I mentioned this last episode where there was like kind of like how jazz artists have different versions of the same song on various different projects.
Dub is probably a better comparison because they just kind of tweak it. Like I think jazz artists like do complete like reinventions, whereas I think like Memphis artists, rap artists do like tweaks or it just like they cleaned it up so it might sound better on one release versus
I actually I think I hit it a while ago, but I have a list that's like just like a list of 3-6 songs that appear like on multiple releases that
I like that list. I wonder where it went. Yeah,
it's like it's just like the Constitution, but
so now we need to have Nicolas Cage find all the ghost lists.
Now that would be a better plot than the actual movie.
I'm not going to hear any National Treasures enter on this podcast. Like, okay, no, we're not.
Nick Cage just released a new movie. Not talk down on him.
I think.
I would never.
Nicolas Cage on the podcast.
Nicolas Cage is my favorite working actor. I would never do such a thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I would like
even National Treasure and National Treasure 2: Book of Secrets. So.
Hey, those went hard in high school when they wheeled out the TV and
the square TV. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think so. Overall, what come with me, to hell. I think it was like a really good first step, but they had better stuff coming in the next like year, as we see. Just every release in '94 is incredible. I'm just looking at the list right now, and
that might be like their golden year.
Their golden year, because I mean, Volume 6, the DJ Paul Volume 16, for the summer '94 is
one of the
best Memphis projects ever. Like, and you talk about like great versions of different songs. I mean, Break the Law, Getting Real Buck, you listen back to it, and the beat actually somehow manages to go harder than like it used to. It feels like I don't know what it is, but for something that came out almost 30 years ago, it sounds just as fresh. And I think, they done fucked up. Sounds probably a little better on Underground Volume 1, but it still sounds amazing here. And yeah.
I think, Patrick, I don't know if you saw this one was remastered as well, but I think the Volume 16 remaster is incredible because it also adds like some bonus tracks and some other stuff that was previously on it.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
It's probably the best remaster that they did.
Yeah.
Redid, rather.
I highly recommend that one.
I'll check that out. Check it. Shout out to the God Fahim, friend of the show. Always telling us to check it.
I just cannot stop checking it.
I'm once again being asked to check it.
I mean, that's why he's the stock lord, because he's always checking it. He's so good at checking stocks.
God damn it, you guys. Just trying to go one album without getting off track.
Impossible.
It is. We gotta love checking it. I think.
I'll check. I check the remaster on that.
Yes.
I'm two pieces about the remasters. Like sometimes I just like the fuzzy sound. Other time, like when I heard "Come With Me to Hell" Volume 1 versus the remaster, it was just like I could see what he was going for with the remaster. Like it flowed better, but I also just liked the way it sounded, just blown out originally. But you also can't have it sound that blown out on a laptop, period. You know what I mean? Like, it's not ever going to sound like it does on a cassette, period.
I mean, I know we're jumping around a lot here, but I think the biggest, like...
I'm just talking about remasters in general. Like that.
I know I'm saying, like, but with the Koopsta tape, like, the remaster, like, The Devil's Playground is the definitive version to most people.
Oh, yeah. I have... Oh, no, that one. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's the one I have.
Yeah.
I feel like that one's like the exception, though.
Yeah, because that's the version that pretty much circulates. So.
I also just had to say,
right? The 19 versus 13, right?
I believe so. That's the one that I have. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think like there's like 19 tracks on the remaster and there's like 15 on. I don't know.
Unless I've been doing it wrong. I think that's the...
Yeah, I think the remaster has a bunch of other tracks than the original.
It does.
Yeah, so that's
it also left out some of the original tracks that are amazing.
Yeah, I was going back on my whole point about remasters versus originals, and I completely forgot we were talking about the Koopsta. Yeah, no, the Koopsta is like, and I was like sound fidelity. I haven't listened to the original. I can't compare them in terms of like sound fidelity.
Okay, like you should definitely listen to the original cassette because it has "Lay It Down," which is featuring Skinny Pimp and Lord Infamous, which should not have been left off of the remaster.
Yeah. But maybe like could be the best song on the album, like possibly if
I think
with like Robbers and
does it like kind of does it ruin, like, is the remaster the same thing as like Come With Me to Hell Volume 1? Does it smooth it out too much, or
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because I've listened to the remastered Koopsta album like more than the tape's worthwhile though, because you also get the classic like side A outro, side B intro, just experience.
And those outros and intros do add a lot. Like, that's one of the big things about these Memphis tapes is those outros and intros like add a lot of character to it.
Yeah, those are like just like, you know, the music historian, like archivist in me is just like all the names they shout out there. It's like, thank you for doing this. Like, otherwise this shit would have been lost like to the sands of time.
Yeah, and that was a through line through their whole discography. Even when they were, you know, even when they became, you know, were 3-6 as a group and doing stuff in the 2000s and later, they still would do those like, you know, shout out sections or tracks and
Like,
kind of as like a
shout out dedication outros just got better time, I thought.
yeah, especially like I think my favorite ones is like I think like probably the late 90s like stuff would be like my favorite, or maybe like when the smoke clears, like around that time, because there's so many like funny little asides in between the songs.
Even all the way up until like, you know, Juicy started adopting the shut the fuck up.
And speaking of shout outs, shout out to your review of this. I believe this is the review where you say if marijuana could rap, it would be this album.
Yeah. I was very high when I wrote that.
If I could write, it would have been that review.
It is a wonderfully succinct review. Just closing the volume 16 discussion, I did want to mention that there are just some of the hardest random lines that I still kind of stumble upon. Like today, in one of the verses on Getting Real Book, there's the line, "My mouth full of lit firecrackers, Star Spangled Bannered," which is an absolutely insanely good line that I just wanted to kind of shout out, because even after years and years of listening to Solo 3-6, you know, in the group, etc., I still catch things, you know, to this day, because the music is kind of dense.
Yeah, I would also say Neighborhood Ho is a 3-6 standard.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I mean, I know a lot of people would never say like DJ Paul like is a great rapper, but I think on this song particularly, like he has a great verse.
And he kind of can turn it up a lot when other members are on the track as well, where you can really feel like the distinction between him and like say a Juicy or the Lord Infamous or you know any of the affiliates.
I mean, obviously production is his strong suit, but he can still hold his own as a rapper.
Yeah, and that maintained. I mean, he probably has the most famous quote on "Stay Fly," like as an example. So, or one of them, because there's a lot of quotables on that song. But that kind of stuck, you know, with him throughout time. Was he also kind of has that kind of rough voice and very distinctive. So I always appreciate DJ Paul's like presence on a track, especially because he does so much, you know, behind the scenes.
Well, I also have to mention that my favorite part of Stay Fly is the MJG verse at the end where he fails to mention Crunchy Black.
Yeah, he gives everybody a shout out, gives Young Buck a shout out,
gives A-Ball, Juicy J, DJ Paul a shout out, but
yeah,
Crunchy Black conspicuously absent.
It was lost in the sauce.
Yeah. That 2-bar Crunchy Black verse didn't get a mention from those guys, but
it's like a You God verse.
Crunchy Black, the You God of 3-6 Mafia.
I think that's an accurate statement.
I agree.
I mean, fuck, they didn't give him a solo album until 2006. Like, he must have been asking.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
He's like, when is it gonna be my turn?
Well, Christian's review of that album is he apparently kept asking and they didn't let him, and there's a reason for that. And having listened to 3 tracks of his solo album, there was in fact a reason for that. Most of his solo album, his ad libs, and then DJ Paul chopping up tracks from better albums as hooks.
The whole thing.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So, we want to get on to Getty Green, I guess, will be the next one, or
Well, on the list, it's we get into like Juicy now, like volume Volume 9 and stuff like that.
I mean, would it be easier to just go like through DJ Paul tapes up to a certain point, then switch over to Juicy?
Oh, yeah. I should probably go back to the list. Since I said we're doing the list.
Or chronological is cool too. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
Well, I think that like whether it's Juicy's, I mean, I think we could do either one because I think that there's like a through line either way. Yeah, I don't think it really matters. So I was just looking at like Volume 9 and 10 because those are like also.
I mean, I was intending to do it chronologically. I honestly have not listened to nearly as much as you guys. So I was kind of hoping to cede it to you because obviously I have no clue what I'm doing. So
I would say Juicy J Volume 9 is like that. That's his first like amazing tape. Like really, like the aesthetic is like fully fleshed out.
Yeah, and like 9-Tier Dome just off the top is one of their most like celebrated, underground songs, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, one of the craziest beats. One of the craziest beats that they've done. It's like also a very weird album, which I don't think is kind of like touched on enough. I actually think, shout out to Christian. He had a good review where it's like, I can't imagine what hearing this in like '94 was like, because it's a very strange album in terms of like soundscapes and how kind of rough and around the edges the whole like recording is, and it sounds just straight up like demented at points, but it's also one of the best.
I mean, you can tell this was extremely formative on Space Ghost Perp, like obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like some of the beats, like it's gotta be tough saying some of the titles because it's me saying them, not like Juicy J. But some of the beats on this are still kind of blow my mind to this day. Like how did they do that? But yeah, I mean, "Blow Your Ass Off" is like a big song on here.
Break Yourself, Bitch is definitely one of my early favorites too.
Mm-hmm. Also, what's the one toward the bottom that's one of my Shootouts is definitely one that the beat is really crazy on.
And Riding in the Chevy Part 1 is on this.
Right, which you don't get the little intro before Riding the Chevy Part 2, but
yeah, obviously Riding the Chevy Part 2 is the definitive one. But
it's still I would still say it's worthwhile, but yeah, I mean it's kind of I think a kind of in-depth discussion about this project might be a little redundant because it's just going to be us bouncing back and forth of like, hey, this song's amazing. Hey, this song's amazing. Hey, this beat's crazy.
Hard. Real hard. Song's hard.
Yeah, real hard. Like, goes crazy. Wow, super cool. Like super influential.
This also knocks in the whip.
It does. And as I said in the last episode, there have been instances where I've just been playing 90s 3.6 in the car, and I'm like, this is years ago, but I was like, maybe just roll up the windows because it's knocking a little too hard.
I'll contribute this to the discussion. So normally at about 7:30 at night, everybody in my part of Pennsylvania goes to bed at night, and I feel like I can go outside and do my thing. And if I'm in fact able to do my thing, which is listen to 3-6 Mafia and smoke what the government says I can smoke outside. So I tried to do that and listen to Tommy Wright III, and I did that, and a 5-year-old landed their frisbee in my yard as I'm listening to Tommy Wright III and doing stuff. I felt like a real asshole and ran right back inside my house. So that was today as Patrick as a father.
Her ears would have been blessed. For sure, she didn't know what she was. She didn't know what she was.
I guess, yeah. She got some real street knowledge, real trap shit. Trapaholic.
Right. I haven't yet broached the idea of exposing my kid to 3-6 Mafia yet.
Oh no, this was not my child. This was someone else's child I was exposing to this. But
yeah.
When does that time come, John? Is that like a like when you show your kid the first like movie above like X with a certain content in it or whatever. Like what is
now we watch some De Palma.
Well, we're gonna watch Choices, the movie, obviously.
right.
All right, no Paw Patrol. Killer season goes on now.
That's the threshold, really. When my kid can appreciate movies starring rappers.
All right,
Killer
no
season choice.
little CGI dogs. Now Cameron's going to spit on a child. Now you have crossed the route on.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the great works right there. Cameron, truly a visionary, turned a masterpiece in.
No one else put Hal Rell in a movie. Like Scorsese didn't put Hal Rell in a movie.
Absolutely not. That was a missed opportunity by him.
I didn't see Hal Rell in Goodfellas. I didn't see Hal Rell in. I mean, he put Action Bronson in a movie. Where was Hal Rell in The Irishman?
Oh my gosh, that would have been hilarious. Hal Rell's part would have been the guy in Goodfellas. Would have been the guy who gets super jacked up during the Pittsburgh cocaine deal, where he's like trying to sell them his guns at the same time as he's getting the cocaine, and Henry Hill keeps trying to see helicopters over his head. And so he doesn't want the guns, but Hal Rell just keep trying to sell him the guns. I think that's where he would fit.
The movie Killer Season is available in full on YouTube.
Important shit.
Movie Killer Season on full. You cannot watch this podcast.
Important shit. Honestly, foundational. Well, okay. I guess I'll my segue would be out of the '94 stuff. John, or either of you, or do you guys have is there a favorite? Would it have been the Paul tape? Would it have been the Juicy tape, or the Devil's Playground, the cassette version? Like which one? So I guess we can get to other projects, because they're all these projects we're talking about, Volume 9, Volume 10, the Juicy ones. They're amazing. Like I have nothing but positive things to say, but I feel like I don't want to be boring by just kind of regurgitating my same talking points for each one.
I mean, exempting Smoked Out, Loked Out, I would choose probably Volume 16, DJ Paul.
So that would be the one that if someone hadn't listened to any of these, you would point them in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I think Serial Killaz is really good, but I don't think it's emblematic of their sound. Mm-hmm. I think it's more DJ Paul trying to do other people's sound. So, like, again, Ashes to Ashes, but that's 96. So we're already getting ahead.
Right. I think I would probably say that either the Volume 16 or Volume 9, the two that we've talked about so far, I think are the two like pinnacle releases from this period. They're both, you could argue, Paul's best tape and Juicy's best tape. They both have legendary songs that would carry on like later on in their careers on those tapes and live on. So
I think that's fair.
Those would be what I recommended, and we've been able to talk about them. So yeah. I think we can. And we already touched on the Devil's Playground, cassette version as well, which is another.
And Juicy J is also in the essential category.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's also kind of a similar style of Volume 9, where it's like an assault on you with these like insane beats, but it's a little shorter.
Yeah.
If that matters. And it has great, you mentioned the A to B flips. Those are some of the best. Right after Get Fucked.
Go Volume 10, then Volume 9.
It's weird because sometimes I like Paul in terms of being more hypnotic in like a screw fashion, but then I hear him doing stuff for other rappers and doing a more concise thing, and I feel like it's weird because I feel like Paul is very versatile, and I feel like he can work in both lanes. I feel like he can be very hypnotic too. Like I think that's also a strength of his. Like, but I don't know if that's just me being partial to screw tapes.
Hmm.
And that stuff.
I can see that because he can kind of like he doesn't necessarily blend in with the production like as maybe some of the other members could, but
As a rapper, I don't rate Paul. I mean, as a rapper, like pretty much Paul's just like a zero value guy to me. Like he's doesn't add nor detract pretty much. Like as a rapper,
he's filler on the early 3-6 albums. Like it's fine.
Yeah, like he doesn't like take away. Like I don't hear Paul in a verse and I'm like, oh, I gotta skip this type thing. But like, I don't hate him or anything either.
He does hooks really well. But
yeah, like as that's the thing about producer rappers is they know how to sound on their own shit. Like Oh No can sound good on his own stuff too.
Right. I also want to say that for one, I know because John had mentioned Volume 10. Volume 10 has Walk Up to Your House, which is one of the best 3-6 songs ever for sure. I would show up in future endeavors that kind of like in better sounding versions, but it's never sounded more evil on this version. Yeah. So yeah,
I also love Go to Church. Like Go to Church
with MC Mac. Was that the first thing that MC Mac did with them?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a lot of his stuff shows up later. So yeah. Also, just essential some Lil Noid features. You got to have some Lil Noid on your on your album. Lil Noid's Paranoid Funk album is really good. So definitely more in like the horrorcore variety, but good shit.
Yeah, honestly, we could spend hours like on side tapes like affiliates with 3-6.
Right.
I mean, we're already doing a side tape episode. Like this is a side tape episode already. So
this is definitely one for like the dedicated heads. You know, the people
that are for
really,
the heads. So you're already talking about doing a heads for the heads episode. So
yeah, once you get into Lil Noid, you are down the rabbit hole. I mean, you have passed like all tests getting into that kind of lore. So, but yeah. I think the moral of this kind of discussion is so far has been all the 94 stuff is really essential, and there's a good chance that if you're listening to this you haven't heard all of these projects because while they're easier to find now, it's not like they have been easiest to find in the past, so they're definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and again, beware of most remasters unless it's like just for having bonus tracks. I think the ones with bonus tracks are worth seeking out, but if it's just the same thing with like a sorted track list, be wary of that. Like the Hell Volume 1, that was definitely a misstep in terms of it's the same stuff, but like I did not really like what he did with that versus the original. So I think be cautious of that. Listen to both versions and decide what you like better.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's just like listen to it for yourself, and then it will just come down to like personal preference.
Right. Ghost, you said that it's more of a vanity thing for DJ Paul at this point because the YouTube fans are, and I totally respect fans doing this, but it kind of seems like a dick measuring contest a little bit at this point. Like who can like fix something better, which is like a gift and a curse of the internet, I guess. Like everybody has access to the material.
Yeah, and then we don't even really need to discuss the 94 solo Project Pat tape because basically all those songs ended up on Murderers and Robbers, kind of a remastered form.
All right, so we won't.
Yeah, and then 95 is really out because we obviously talked about the main album, Mystic Styles on the previous episode, but 95, the two big side releases were Spring Mix and the Come With Me to Hell Volume 2, which are two essential listens.
Come With Me Volume 2 is amazing.
And it has, and what Ghost just said, it has also some of the best 3-6 projects that are 3-6 songs on here, like Riding the Chevy Part 2, which is also on Underground, Paul with the 45. Taylor Club Up was on another Future album, in multiple versions on multiple projects. So yeah,
I have this one 5-starred. It just does not get better than this to me.
This is one of their best side.
Hey, 5 stars you have, by the way. I'm curious.
How many do I have?
Yeah, because you have very few.
Hovering around 200, I think.
Oh, really? 200? Wow.
But he's rated like all of music though. You can't take that You have to take that with a grain of salt. That's like 1% of his.
200 out of 40,000. Yeah, it's a pretty small sliver.
Wow.
He's an encyclopedia, so
I feel like
200.
I feel like a speck in the nebula right now. Like I feel like a Killer Priest lyric right now. Speck in the nebula. But well, 5 stars though. I hear that though, because this is immense. This is fucking immense.
Yeah.
It deserves it. Period.
Yeah.
I would say I think side B is the stronger side.
Yeah. I mean, there are just it's all classics on side B. There's not a single song that isn't like a 5-star song.
Yeah. There's no misses.
Yeah. When I like the fact that "Damn I'm Crazed" can kind of be translated into like meme format in 2022, where it's just like, wow, I'm so crazy for real. Ahead of their time.
I want to hijack this real quick. Is that I want to hijack the beginning of A Whole Lot of Red to be about capitalism.
Oh, when
Never too much. Yeah.
Never too much. That was important commentary.
That was important content, and I stand by it. So I can hijack memes too. But yeah, no, this is a 5-star album. Every moment, like my good personal internet friend Confederate Max said, "Can you take any 5 seconds of this and make it into a scratch?" And that was the Omatic test. Make it 5 stars, and that doesn't hold for Omatic because there are 2 seconds on it. There are 2 lines in Omatic you can't take because they're fucking gross and weird. But other than that, it stands. And I mean, there are probably problematic lines on this. Fuck it, it's a Southern rap album, whatever. But it still stands. Fucking hypnotic and perfect. 5 stars.
Yeah, there's not a single song. I mean, they really kind of a bunch of these projects, like I mentioned, that where it's like, oh, I'll say, oh, like, you know, this song is perfect or that song is perfect, and it would end up on, you know, Underground Volume 1 or Mystic Styles, whatever. But this album, they just have top to back, you know, front to back, some of their best work, and not only would some of them end up on future projects, but the ones that didn't are just as like high quality. So yeah, definitely one of the best. I mean, I rate so many of their albums like so highly, but this is definitely, I think, up there with the DJ Paul, the best DJ Paul project that we just spoke about in terms of how classic it gets. It's like this, like Volume 9 and like For the Summer.
Yeah, like have anyone who has like an original copy of this like has like literal fucking gold.
Yeah, I can't imagine, you know, being like lucky enough to have this and like preserve it. I mean, that's real archival shit, like you mentioned kind of earlier.
It's history, you understand?
Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. That's what all you need to know about this album if you haven't heard it is
it's an uncut gem. Yeah.
It is. It's a gem from Ethiopia. Yeah, this is. I mean, not much else to say about it. You know, Grab the Gauge, double classic. You know, Riding the Chevy Part 2. I mean,
I love this version of Grab the Gauge because it has Skinny Pimp's verse.
Yeah, it's the definitive version.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, nothing but positive things to say about this, as I'm sure we'll have the same opinion about the Spring Mix. Because the Spring Mix is amazing. And this was one where I mentioned earlier, I went back to it somewhat recently and was still blown away by like how hard some of the like snares hit and like the beats hit. And the Spring Mix has a lot of that. Like, they went.
That's another 5-star. Like it's just flawless.
Oh yeah, I don't have like many bad things to say. It's kind of like a not like sunny version of some of their stuff, but it's a little. It's not like as, you know, dark and like pummeling in a way. While remaining, it's like keeping its hypnotic quality for sure.
Also has one of the most iconic Spirit of 77 reviews.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Honestly, it also has a great. There's a great version of it that has a wacky cover art of like them on a yacht, right? Like,
yeah. So yeah, that I will mention that when I first started listening to all these tapes, like I got them with like these obviously fan made cover arts. So those are like still like definitive in my mind.
yeah, like I never actually listened to it with like the cassette as the actual cover of it. It was just Juicy J, and I think they have like champagne or something, and they're drinking it on a boat.
Yeah, back in early 2010s RYM, they still had all the fan made cover art like as the original album covers.
Right. Because I remember seeing some of them even in like the mid 2010s when I was like starting to listen to this stuff. That's how I differentiated them in my head. Because I imagine it would have been a lot harder if I just had seen them with the cassette.
Yeah,
so.
it is kind of weird looking at all of them now with like the proper like cassette cover art, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the spring mix is classic stuff. It doesn't get much better, honestly.
Easily the best DJ Paul and Juicy J tape.
Mm-hmm. I love how like in just going through all this like 94, 95 discussion, we've gone over like the best DJ Paul solo, the best Juicy solo, the best like Paul and Infamous, and now we're on the best like Paul and Juicy. So these guys were just on such a hot streak that kind of blows my mind. Like most
what
artists,
a small time too. Yeah, like seriously.
I mean, we just referenced like 4 or 5-star projects in like the span of 2 years. That you don't like get that. But yeah, I actually didn't know. Rest in peace to Spirit of 77. I didn't even know who they were on the site prior to reading that review like years back. That was how I followed their profile.
Yeah, Mike was one of my RYM homies like back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Very influential on my taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing review. Like just the prose is unbelievable. So
my review of his is the Dipset Christmas review. If you look up,
one of the best.
I don't know if I've read that one. I'll have to look it up.
He stands up for the war on Christmas.
Oh. Oh damn. But yeah, in terms of the 95 stuff, I guess we would probably move to 96, and then I have to refer to the list for chronology. Let me see here.
I know they did so goddamn.
Yeah, because we already did some of the proper albums, so like moving over the end and Mystic Styles and stuff like that. Yeah, I think because I think for the 90s, all we have left is would be like the Tommy Wright stuff, and I guess if we want to talk about the Skinny Pimp record, I mean, Ghost. I'm not sure if you have like, I mean, King of the Players Ball is like one of my favorite like Memphis albums of all time.
Talking about.
Yeah, I think first of all, incredible cover art. Maybe like my favorite cover art on a Memphis record. One of them. And this was.
Yeah, of course.
This was one that I played a lot back in like 2017-ish when I was really diving into the like outside of the 3-6 group albums, and it was really like the One Life to Live, the one with Lord Infamous and Gangsta Black. Y'all Ain't No Killaz, that's what it was. Yeah, those were some of my favorites. Also, Midnight Hose is like an iconic like hook and beat. So,
have you seen the One Life to Live music video?
I don't think I have actually. Is that just like it's easily searchable?
Yeah.
Look at it after. Yeah,
I'm gonna plug that because that's one of my favorite music videos ever.
I'll
basically it all takes place at a jail.
Mm-hmm. I'll check it out after. Nobody crosses me. Also, once again, the top half of this album is amazing. Nobody crosses me for being 7 minutes is like such an incredible track. With enough quotables to fill like an album. So
Yeah. I mean, basically from this point on, if there is like, if you see DJ Paul, Juicy J, executive producers, then it's worth checking out.
What
what's
funny thing I thought about was when I was looking at the Juicy credits on RYM, he's not Juicy J executive producer, he is Juicy J executive check writer.
That's the title I want.
Like,
that's going
the
on
fact that he insisted on that is legendary. Just
yeah, it seems pretty good.
And it's funny, Patrick, you had mentioned earlier about how some of this stuff had a definitive, West Coast feel. I think that this album kind of gets into that too, John. I don't know if you agree. I feel like there's some. Obviously, it's more. It feels like Memphis, feels like Southern hip hop, but I feel like some of the beats have kind of a West Coast influence.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I'm kind of talking out my ass here, but I feel like Hy-Vee doesn't exist without Memphis.
I don't know too much of the background for that, but Hy-Vee, I imagine, was
Hy-Vee expert.
Yeah, to me, Hy-Vee is like a hybrid of a few styles, so I guess I could see it. I don't have
Hy-Vee kind of feels like they're trying to it's mainly. E40 obviously is the primary, I think, reference point on Hy-Vee.
Touchstone, yeah.
But I feel like E40 is like that sort of cleverness point of 3-6 where they're coming up with clever shit to say over dumb shit, essentially. Take the clever shit and merge it with minimal dumb type rap, quote unquote. They even use that slang, dumb out, on Hy-Vee. So I feel like that's the region, we were talking about how it doesn't have to be beef when regional sort of merging, and I kind of feel like that was the late 2000s sort of thing where that was the West Coast eventually paying back to the South.
Yeah, no, I think in Hy-Vee is definitely a continuation from what I've heard. I can hear.
I'm not going to front like I'm some huge Hy-Vee expert or anything. But
my first exposure was probably
mine was the Shadow album, where the one everyone hated because they knew Shadow, and they're like, oh my god, why are these people on here, these people rapping this way?
Yeah.
DJ Shadow album. But which I always thought was it's cool. I don't know, I didn't see anything wrong with that sort of rapping on an album. It just felt like another flavor on an album. It just felt like another sort of thing to do.
Well, people also have trouble connecting to Hy-Vee, in terms of the sound and the beats and stuff.
It was just, it was weird and it was super minimal. It was super regional was something you throw in 3 quotes, I guess. But it's just something you say world music. I don't understand it, so I put it in a box.
Right.
Something Southern music, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it for some people it doesn't connect.
People said it about 3-6 Mafia until they mainstreamed to a way that people could understand them.
Mm-hmm. Which is how it is with any, great, not any, but a lot of great influential acts that get notoriety over time, especially in hip hop, where I think the mainstream used to be it was more closed off, and then it kind of opened up. And I think the internet had a large part of that. So, which is, every time we do a hip hop episode on one of these legendary groups, we always talk about the internet's impact as it relates to the group. And I think no group
podcast, unfortunately, we have to kind of address. That's how we approach music. That's how we digested it. So,
but it's a valid point, because you could argue maybe no act in the 90s benefited more from the internet taking hold of rap and becoming an ecosystem than 3-6, because all of a sudden these cassettes and things, now people were listening to them on YouTube and stuff, whereas they were probably the circulation was way different, and the music became readily available.
I can understand that. That was, and you can extrapolate that into all of the Southern influence that has just pervaded all of popular music, and then trap and as a whole, right? Like trap as a genre.
Right.
I mean, I only knew about DJ Screw like pre like heavy internet obsession because I grew up in Houston when I was a kid.
Yeah, but like,
and I was only vaguely aware of like 3-6 Mafia, and I had no idea about like the Memphis cassette scene at all.
Right. Like, that's not something you would have been aware of unless you were around it, like at the time, like given your age. But then the internet makes it so you're aware of everything if you want to be into it.
Right. And that's the positive. You know. But I guess as it relates to some of these records, I guess we would go to Tommy Wright's kind of
Tommy Wright's trilogy, I guess. I thought quadrilogy because there's 4, and I missed one, unfortunately. I don't know how I can't count because I thought there were 3. There are actually 4.
So the first 3 are there are 5 technically, but the first 3 are the ones that
one's a Posse album, right? Like one's technically a Posse album.
I mean, on the Run is like a lot of different people, like being the primary artist.
Compilation-y thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought of On the Run as like the definitive like Tommy Wright album, but it really is like sort of a glorified compilation.
Well, the one I was saying was a comp. Well, there's also the one on RYM that seems to be billed to multiple artists. That's why I didn't consider that's why I didn't listen to it in sequence.
The one with the 10 Wanted Men.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the 10 Wanted Men because I thought that was like a group album, so I thought that was him and a bunch of other people. Although in retrospect, sure it's just as good as everything else. So
10 Wanted Men is Tommy Wright and a few other artists like Womack and a couple other ones, but those are comparatively, those artists in that group have a lot less notoriety than Tommy Wright.
Yeah, Tommy Wright is the star of the show.
So,
so
anyway,
of the Tommy Wright projects, which one would be your favorite? Like, would it be Ashes or On the Run or?
I'd say On the Run.
Either On the Run or Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah, I think those two
perfect to me.
Those 2 albums, despite only being like roughly 2 years apart, going by what I'm seeing from like the internet, I think the sound is is a little different with On the Run. Like, does On the Run feel a little more? I don't mean this in a positive or negative way. It just feels a little bigger than Ashes to Ashes?
On the Run actually.
Oh yeah, it's way more polished.
Yeah. On
the Run feels a little more like homegrown and beaten up to me, and I mean no value judgment on it to it. Like, it feels more like it came from like he recorded it like in his car to me, versus On the Run Ashes to Ashes feels like he recorded it in his car, versus On the Run feels a little more professional, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can you can hear it just from the first, like the production and like as overall like sound quality. And Patrick and I talked about this before we were on the air, but just the rapping on both these projects, but On the Run to me is some of the best rapping performances on on any of these like side projects
or the 90s.
Just period. Yeah. It sets the tone with that first song, Take a Chance. It's like some of the hardest rapping you'll ever hear. So I would probably say that I slightly prefer On the Run, but Ash to Ashes is still amazing, and it was my introduction to Tommy Wright years ago.
Holy fuck! So. I never realized that Blackout had production credits on the Run.
That's how I found out about that album. back in the day. I just clicked on them. I didn't know who, like I didn't know what Blackout was. And then I clicked on it, and then that's how I listened to Dreamworld.
Yeah, I love Dreamworld too, but yeah, holy shit, I didn't know he had production involvement on the Run. It's crazy.
Because you see the Dreamworld cover art, and you're just like, what the hell? And then you have to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, at least that was me.
About those first 2 Tommy albums, well, again, I didn't listen to Running Gunnin', Ashes, Ashes, and On the Run, is that there's some of the beats try and sound clean, some of the loops are kind of clean, but he raps just so aggressively at them. Like, there's just, but not the right way to say this. There's just a precision to the way he raps. Like, there's certain regional rappers that have a way of, like, Meek Mill tries to do this for Philly. And I feel like there's an almost cartoonish way the way he does it for Philly. Tommy Wright is not cartoonish. Tommy Wright is...
No, it's a matter of fact. Like, just it's not to the point of like hitting you in the head with it. It's more of just like very aggressive, but also very steady. And that especially when he's flowing nonstop, like as like referenced on Take a Chance or on Royalty, when he's like just straight up flowing nonstop, it's almost like impossible to decipher when like the verse ends and the chorus kicks in because it's so seamless.
And even I want to say, fuck it, I'm gonna say Kendrick, like try and do this thing where it's like being very, very serious, and like I'm doing the serious voice right now, and it seems cartoonish. Tommy doesn't have that quality. It seems documentary versus theatrical when he does it.
Oh yeah, if you follow Tommy Wright 3 on social media, like you can tell he's just like the realest dude.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually, and I just if you had any more insight into this. Patrick and I were talking about does Tommy Wright, well, obviously 3-6 has been retroactively canonized and et cetera, but outside of like, Memphis rap heads or, longtime listeners or internet forum culture, people who are interested in this sort of thing, is Tommy Wright still like do you think he got like lost to time, like took a back seat to like the 3-6 revival, or do you think he got his due?
I mean, I would say, amongst like obviously people who are heavily invested in Memphis rap, like on the internet, like everybody knows he's rightfully one of the GOATs. Mm-hmm. But you like, I don't know, if you like just go on his like Facebook or whatever, like he's still just living like a very like normal life. Like obviously did not get a big payout like 3-6 did. He's obviously like, he's weird though, in that very approachable like on social media. Like people will just like message him and he'll always message back. Like he just seems like the realest dude. Like he didn't have like success or like fame like get to him. He's just like still grinding.
Right. Yeah. And I think I had seen something just on my feed at one point or another just about Tommy Wright like responding to someone. So yeah, I'm not surprised that that's like his persona and that it like hasn't changed.
I think he's still like selling like bootleg tapes of his. Like if you message him, he'll probably charge you like $20 or something.
Damn. Good for him that like, yeah, I'm glad that he has like people that would, still reach out about those tapes and try to get that. So,
and you should fucking buy one. I still haven't bought a cassette player, but I still buy a bunch of cassettes. So fuck it, I might buy one because Tommy Wright.
I also should mention that we are currently anticipating Tommy Wright IV coming out with a single.
Oh, really?
Well, it has to be with Wu-Tang Kid shit.
Yeah, his Tommy Wright IV is getting into the rap game.
Damn. Someone's got to be there early. Someone's got to be there early on Tommy Wright IV. I don't know. I don't know.
I will add that shit on RYM. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Database king.
Oh, god damn it! I already got scooped by that random guy though.
I thought it would actually be One Man Army would have got you on that.
Damn.
Look up Tommy 4.
Tommy 4. Okay. Damn.
No, it's son of Tommy Wright III.
Well, outside of On the Run having one of the best diss tracks ever made, which I'm sure we'd all.
Tongue out your mouth. See if you can rap fast now.
God, and it comes after Royalty, which is like also one of the best songs on here to me. So like that, what a run that is. But Patrick, you said something before the episode that I wanted to mention because I find it interesting. You said this was like, I mean, there's a lot of things you could call like proto Freddie Gibbs. We used to talk about like Tupac and things like that, or other like Scarface. But this, you name drop Freddie Gibbs and
yeah, I honestly feel like this is feels sort of Gibbs like in terms of being like our worst word I could possibly use, articulate and emotional, but like regionally like non stereotypical. Stridently non-stereotypical about being regional, I would say. But that's not fair because I feel like regionally everybody was doing this shit. People just weren't paying attention. You have Zero, all they did like was doing this stuff. So that's not really fair. It's just more what I associate it with because I was paying attention to Gibbs. That's what I associate it with.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, they both seem like I mean, I'm listening to Gibbs music for years.
I hear a lot of Gibbs. I feel like I heard a lot of like inspiration from him in Gibbs, but I don't know if that's what Gibbs was really drawing from.
Maybe even something like persona-wise, because I kind of equated Scarface and Gibbs to have similar like just personas and how they are on
literally
the track.
Yeah, 1-to-1 on there, like Broken on Pinata.
Yeah. So I could see like a Scarface merged with Tommy Wright because Tommy Wright, I mean, what is like just John said a few moments ago about just being the most like down to earth guy. And I feel like early, Gibbs, especially in the like early 2010s portion of his career, late 2000s portion of his career had that like title as it related to him. And yeah, I could hear it definitely. So.
I can think of is You Only Live Twice, which kind of takes that cold, like I've talked about this on the podcast before, where it's like that sort of cold Hit Boy, not Hit Boy, what's that Drake guy's production?
Like Boy Wonder?
Yeah, Boy Wonder production, but like marries it to this like actual like sort of like what the situation he was in and kind of makes it such a thing to deal with, like, and just makes it so relatable over these sort of like beats that Drake was talking about, the stuff no one can relate to, but Gibbs was able to kind of relate it to something that put it in this recontextualize the framework. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I haven't thought that hard about Freddie Gibbs in a long time.
Yeah,
I don't really think about Gibbs that much until like I just thought about how there was like a sort of 1-to-1 with him and Tommy in terms of the way they rapped.
John, do you think there's a modern analog for Tommy Wright or anything close to it?
Yeah, am I off on this? Or I mean, that was just what I heard.
I don't know. Tommy Wright is just like such a unique guy because like, he grew up like rapping like about like, going to jail, like getting arrested, like doing all this shit like that actually happened to him. Like who in the modern day is like constantly getting locked up or in trouble with the law, but also rapping about it and not like in search of like fame or wealth.
Yeah, it's a interesting. I guess, and then I guess that kind of goes back to what Patrick was saying about the "You Only Live Twice" record, where Gibbs, it literally did happen to him, but
right, happened to him, and it was just like he was reflecting upon like he was never going to see his daughter again, and I don't know. It felt like that was not like, I guess you could say that he put out a record. He was looking at fame about it, but I mean, you could say like obviously, I don't think Tommy Wright was looking at a record deal when he put his shit out either. I mean, when I made the Wright versus Gibbs comparison, it was more stylistically the way they rapped, but
right.
You could look and like in terms of the content a little bit. That I think there's a humanity in what they're rapping about. There's a grittiness in what they rap about.
I mean, maybe Space Ghost Perp. I don't know. I mean, Tommy Wright doesn't seem to have the same sort of mental issues, but
few do.
Yeah.
Charles
Tommy Wright, thankfully, doesn't.
About who gets some chaos. No, never mind. I'm not going to do that segment. But
Tommy Wright, thankfully, doesn't have the same, quick Twitter impulse to beef with people and Space Ghost. So I think that's probably important. But yeah, I mean, this is I don't know what the albums that we're touching on. Ashes to Ashes, Running and Gun, and On the Run. I mean, these are legendary albums, and rightfully have been like reclaimed. With their time.
I will say, Ashes to Ashes did get a reissue that they resorted that I don't like.
It's not that. Definitely go for the original.
Yeah, the remaster. I'm not so like in terms of how they remastered it is not so bad, but like it is kind of but the track listing is bleh. Yeah. They made some choices there I would not have made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've only ever heard the original, so I can't comment. But I'm glad I did. Right. Now that you guys said that.
So you can't get it on Spotify. You can't get any of it on Spotify. I mean, I don't know why they're on SoulSeek. Like,
you can find it like in a few different places, but it's not like honestly, going around on streaming,
floating around like.
Yeah.
Who's getting money off that?
Yeah, I would be interested to know like how these reissues like came to be. Like, it was through Street Smart Records again, but like what was going on in the mid 2000s was like how involved was Tommy in that?
Literally just came to my mind. Like if it's not being nobody should be caking off him. Like that's bullshit.
Yeah, if that is the case, I definitely agree. I mean that would be terrible. So I don't have anything else to say. But
conversation took a weird dark turn, as most do.
That's kind of a theme though for Memphis rap is like a lot of artists will do whatever they can to like fuck over other artists like just for money.
Would you? Because that was also. Was also
the whole DJ Paul being sued for like
right.
stealing samples from DJ Squeaky and DJ Zerk.
And Squeaky was known as a pioneer, right?
Yeah. Paul. I mean, DJ Paul definitely took stuff from other producers. Like it's an undeniable fact at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like. Just this the whole thing about taking food off other people's plates,
Yeah, unfortunately, that's been happening in rap music for decades.
Forever.
Ever.
Yeah, it's gonna keep happening.
All right. Well, we're down this rabbit hole forever and just be depressed, or we could just move on in the timeline. But yeah, get every Tommy Wright album, by the way. Listen to all of them. They are all incredible. He's an amazing artist. If you can see him live, see him live. shout out to the one listener of the podcast who has a signed cassette. You're a very fortunate soul. You know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to have that. I think that obviously later, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, is the juicy stuff. In terms of now that we're kind of like in the 2000s, what would be a good jumping off point, John? Do you think, in terms of, because there was kind of a lull where it was like mostly group records.
Yeah.
And
you guys did the Tear the Club Up Thugs on the other podcast, right?
Yeah.
Right. I did all that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did pretty much everything through Last to Walk, and then we did the Unbreakables too. We did Unbreakables as well, or not Unbreakable. Six Commandments. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Hypnotized Camp Posse album from 2000, which is not really worth much discussion.
Yeah, it feels like they went through a period where either there's the solo stuff wasn't like, it was fine, but there wasn't like a lot to it, or they were just doing group records. Because I don't think they really came out of that until the Juicy run in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. But I could.
If we're doing early 2000s, like obviously you have to mention Project Pat solo, like
right.
Oh God, yeah, that was absolutely
hungry as fuck, like putting out some of the best albums of the whole group.
Yeah, that was a bad miss. I knew we were forgetting something on the first episode, and obviously missing out on like Getty Green and the SmackDown and Miss It on Play.
Well, I mean, we're gonna talk about Getty Green, but we're connoisseurs of album art, especially pen and pixel album art on this podcast. I don't know if it's Laying the Smackdown, I believe, or there's one where it's a Project Pat album art where it's like him creeping on somebody, and it's there's somebody with he's wearing a bodysuit that says Snitch.
Yes.
And head is just a question mark, and it's like Snitch on his like shoulder blades. It's incredible album art. I need to find it.
That one is Laying the Smackdown. You were right.
It's remarkable pen and pixel album art. I have not heard, but
I don't know if I fully appreciated that question mark before until now.
The fact that he's just like such a snitch that like it's on his both chest and shoulders that he's a snitch.
And what I had just mentioned,
too.
And what I had just mentioned before, John reminded me not to forget Project Pat, which we should never do, but about how like the solo material from the group kind of died down in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. This was the period where Project Pat was at his best, because he had like a 4-album run of like really high quality material. In my opinion.
I feel like they were like hyper focusing on him because they knew like how good he was.
Well, I think Getty Green was the one. Well, Getty Green was the one I listened to today, and I think that was a really interesting album because it's like it's a crossover album that works in a way that certain crossover album we're going to talk about later only works sometimes, because like it was a 1999 crossover album. Like it's very heavily going for the Cash Money scene and the No Limit scene. Like he's like being like Diplomat, like he's going for other sounds, but I think it works because like he's very natural. He's very good at like kind of blending their sound into their sounds, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But Getty Green also has like a huge like New Orleans crossover.
And also like the title track on Getty Green is one of the catchiest songs in the 3 set. Like that hook it was stuck in my head for hours just after hearing it.
He also has one of like the catchiest like voices, and he has one of the best like vocal presences. Like when you hear Project Pat's voice,
Noriega on a fucking 3-6 album, like on the second track, that was a trip. Like again, that's just like the way like you really don't expect them to be like the group that reaches out to other groups. But they were really the one, like that's the stereotype about the South, was that they were not like working with other people, but it was really New York and LA that were fighting with everybody. The South wanted to reach out.
Yeah, and every time Project Pat adds like a dash AH to his flow and he just riffs on that for like a minute, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah. It's just I'm not gonna do the Project Pat flow mercifully, but that's
we're like this is the Danny Brown, this is the me and Sphinx Danny Brown episode rule, is that we can't just rap like the episode we're talking about. Otherwise, we're just adding 20 minutes to the episode.
Yeah. No, I will not try to do
the Project Pat flow. Like it's so unique.
I mean, there have been plenty of artists who have in recent years have done that flow. I mean, you got to think about.
So good. It's so catchy though. It's like you just hear it, you do it. Like you just do it in your head.
It's like so sing-songy. Like it's just hypnotic.
I mean, 21's done that flow. ASAP Ferg has done that flow.
Done that flow.
Gucci's done that flow. Yeah. There's a number of examples of artists doing that flow. There's one Isaiah Rashad has done that flow as well. So yeah, it's
one day Jay-Z will do that flow and it will sound terrible because other rappers flow 20 years later and it sounds really bad.
Thanks, Jay.
But he's going to do it on a song with Pharrell, where Pharrell also does that flow, and he's going to be talking about
Pharrell will write his verse for him, and Jay will do it with like ad libs, where he'll be like, "Ha ha,"
right,
"Ha ha."
Pharrell's going to be talking about like doing yoga in a lake with like flamingos or whatever. Like it's just going to be some random.
I sling the white like Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Ha ha. It's going to be really bad. So
Jay-Z, please do not adopt the chicken head flow, please.
It should have just been like that flow, like when Cardi B and Migos did that song like a few years ago. That was like the natural conclusion of that flow. Like they basically
do the Bodak flow on like a song this year. Like he's just gonna figure it out. Like,
yeah, he's 5 years too late. That's Jay for you, That's some people's goat for you.
Jay-Z is like the CTE flow on like he just figures out everything 5 years late.
CTE rap. That's terrible.
You're just like listening to some shitty ass Jay-Z verse and he shouts out Lord Infamous though. What would you do?
I'd be like, damn, Malcolm must have handed Jay-Z some Lord Infamous.
Some candy corn in a maze.
Oh God. Yeah.
Call me the Scarecrow.
He's doing like entrepreneur bars, but dropping like 3-6.
Shut the fuck up, entrepreneur. Shut the fuck up.
I mean, Drake has already kind of exhumed that corpse, so I don't know if Jay-Z is going to do it.
That's true.
I don't know,
that's
that
true.
corpse is like pretty old. Drake wouldn't exhume it.
That's very true. Drake did take over that whole lane of. I'm still really upset that, and I mentioned this on that episode. But I'm still
really upset. He's got a lot of blood and it's cold.
Yeah, stop it. Yes, I have a lot of blood and it's cold because I'm mad that Drake sampled they had the sample of Ain't Barrin' That on the worst, like one of the worst songs on Drake's last album had the Ain't Barrin' That sample on it, and it was so boring and they did nothing with it. I was so upset. Sample my favorite 3-6 song of all time, and they did nothing with it.
Yeah, he'll show you how much he appreciates your favorite group by shitting all over them by being shitty with their fucking sample choices.
And it's sad that that's still like one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah, I know, because it's got a great beat, because they sampled one of the best beats ever made.
Fucking Drake cosplay. God damn it.
God damn it.
Swag Dracula at his best.
Sad. But yeah, I mean, with Project Pat, I mean, Ghost, what is your favorite Getty Green? Is it like Miss It Don't Play? Is there one that you go back to?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually back and forth between one of the two. I've probably listened to Getty Green the most.
Mhm. For sure. It does have that like New Orleans connection too, just due to like what was going on around the time and like its sound and like features with big timers and all that all that stuff. So
I do remember because I was living in Houston when it came out, but Chicken Head was a massive hit down there.
it like still sounds like it could come out today, and it did because when that Cardi B song with Migos on it was just like it took that sample and just like flipped it. Which I guess do we want to touch on Gangsta Boo for like a few seconds just about that? Like she was good and probably unfairly maligned at the time, and now she's kind of.
I mean, I even think the Gangsta Boo solo albums are pretty solid.
I haven't listened to any of them, so I can't really speak to them. I think La Chat is really good, and I haven't listened to any stuff. But every time I hear her on a feature, I'm like, she's really fucking good.
Yeah, the La Chat album, the one Murder She Spoke, I believe is what it's called. It came out in like 2001. That's a pretty underrated record.
Actually, I would say that's better than any Gangsta Boo album, and definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a really great record. And it has like Paul and Juicy on a bunch of tracks, I think.
Yeah, production.
I'll check that out for sure. Like I really enjoyed all her features. Like she fucking goes down on everything. So yeah.
And she also did like a remix of like Slob on My Knob. Like she kind of
Slob on My Cat.
Yeah. It was very tongue in cheek, yeah.
Aside from Lil White, she's my favorite female rapper.
Good. That was deep. That was a good reference.
I could own my failures. That was a good callback.
Yeah. We haven't even gotten to Lil White era yet.
Lil White. Well, that was early 2000s, right?
2004 era, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of lump it in, but definitely listen to the La Chat album just for listeners in general, because that's a really great record and has amazing production on it, and she has a lot of great charisma, and obviously, kind of along with Gangsta Boo, paved the way for some of the voices that would come.
The South again doesn't get enough credit for putting on female rappers way before New York, because New York really did not put on female rappers. Like it took like Nicki Minaj being like Nicki Minaj doing a million gimmicks to even get any attention as a female rapper, and Lil Kim like having Biggie behind her. Right. Other than that, who else from New York as a female was getting any attention?
Yeah, because like Foxy Brown's career like died after that one album, right?
And like otherwise, any female rapper was just getting attention based upon like who they were fucking, like versus like female rappers in the South were just like part of the posse, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And yeah, most importantly, the music quality was just better for
exactly.
The Gangsta Boo. Yeah.
Way better than the Hill album.
I mean, Gangsta Boo and La Chat could hold their own, like with basically anyone.
I mean, Gangsta Boo has like one of the most memorable verses on any 3-6.
A lot of people still
song.
On House Arrest.
Like, she definitely introduced herself on a national stage. Breaking out on one of the bigger 3-6 songs. So.
Right, like she made a huge impression with that. So,
Where Dem Doll Is At by Gangsta Boo is a classic. I love that song.
Yeah, that's off the I forget the name of the album, but it's the one where like she's like with the mirrors, right? That's the cover.
It's on Inquiring Minds.
Inquiring Minds, that's what it's called. Yeah. She kind of has like the cowboy fit going, I think.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, I heard that album a while ago, but I remember.
Just for the sake of just like fucking forwarding this discussion, where are we at?
Well, we talked about Project Pat. All this shit's great. We did, Gangsta Boo La Chat. I think we're probably gonna be on Juicy at this point because we did all the main group stuff in the 2000s already.
At this point, we should probably be at like Rubber Band Business, or
I think so. Yeah, it was Rubber Band Business 1 was before Blue Dream and Lean, right?
Yeah, it was like both Rubba Band businesses and Blue Dream. Yeah, Rubba Band businesses and Blue Dream and Lean.
I actually vividly remember this because I was listening to a shit ton of Flockabelly at the time. So like when Juicy J like came out on the scene, like post Flockabelly, like, you know, reasserting his dominance, like it was just like fucking like bread and butter.
You had that whole big discussion we had earlier, so yeah, so this goes right back together. So yeah,
I think it's a good place because this was like really from a popularity perspective, like when the second wind started to kick in, because obviously, you know, Last to Walk was a huge disappointment, and then there were
disaster.
There were a couple years where they, you know, weren't like omnipresent, and then Juicy started getting attention in like the, you know, with these mixtapes.
Right, and it worked out perfectly because, you know, Luger got with Flocka and Flockavelli was just amazing. So it just, like I think Flocka kind of brought that Southern sound back into prominence for everybody, and Juicy, like, people remembered 3-6. Just, I don't know, maybe by osmosis a little bit, like, because I don't know if Flocka made them remember it, like, because Flocka wasn't really 3-6 sound necessarily, like it, but I think it kind of made people remember that was Southern, like people like Southern rap.
Yeah.
And that made it so Juicy on a lane again.
Yeah. It seemed like Juicy was just like, all right, I'm just gonna carve my own lane here, get in the Dat Piff scene. Let's see what happens.
DatPiff.com world premiere.
Well, also,
I can't even tell you how many fucking mixtapes at this, like in this time period, I was downloading from Dat Piff and live mixtapes.
I was gonna say that, like, not only just targeting the scene was a good idea, but you brought up a good point, Patrick, of like kind of revitalizing like the spirit of what 3-6 was like at their best. You know, is kind of, and what Juicy was at his best is kind of like encapsulated in like these Luger tapes, because Luger obviously breaking out, and then you put a really charismatic rapper over it, and then you have like some magic going.
Yeah, and Juicy's charisma at this point was like extremely high. Like I don't know like if it like what drugs he was on, but he tapped into something.
I mean, he was definitely selling Adderall to college kids. He said it on a lot of songs.
Yeah, that is a theme of this era for sure.
And in 2010, I can vouch for the fact that a lot of Adderall was getting sold to college kids.
I was in college. I can verify.
Selling it to them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, there was a whole, I mean, like you guys mentioned, like the Dat Piff explosion, and Juicy was smart enough and forward thinking enough to put him as a guy on the forefront of that explosion. Because within this time period, you know, Rubber Band Business 1 is 2010. You know, within 2 years, you had Chief Keef, you know, have his stuff go crazy on Dat Piff and then blow up. You had Waka's stuff, obviously. You know, Gucci was still dropping things, of course. And then you talk about, by the time 2013 rolls around and Migos come out, you know, Juicy has already been established in this scene for a couple years.
Future.
Oh, yeah, of course. And Future had, it was quick, too. Like, his mixtapes were there, and then he immediately, like, Pluto was, like, a year or two after, like, his mixtapes got traction. So, yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing off the top of my head, but Wiz was a part of that too. Wiz was a part of the mix.
Like if you listen to him rapping on this, and you listen to the way he raps over the course of these, once you get to Blue Dream and Lean, it's more and more just kind of a little bit more college-y, I guess, just like a little bit more, I don't want to say dumbed down, but just kind of like, I'm selling you drugs, bitches drink, like, you know, Adderall. Like, he's pandering a bit on these, and it's fun. Can we talk
about the sheer amount of money that Juicy J was dropping at strip clubs in this era?
I mean, he he has several, like at least 5 songs on every tape about that.
I feel like he was like living in. It was like a fucking Tony Soprano scenario.
Like, you know, bands make her clap and she ain't using her hands. You know, so.
Like he was fucking living at the Bada Bing.
Yeah, right. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
It was right there, Tony, so.
I think that both Luger tapes are really strong, especially the second one. And the Blue Dream and Lean, to me, was, I think, when Juicy really had it. Like, this is a sick tape, even though it's long. It kind of just all flows.
It's long as shit, but yeah, it's very listenable.
Yeah. There's obviously like a few weak cuts in there because it's like 30 tracks.
For something with such repetitive content, it's very charming, I'll say. Mm-hmm. It's very, like, for 70 minutes, it flies by. And yeah, this dude loves the strip club. Can't get the fuck out of the strip club. When he's not selling Adderall to your little sister, he's at the fucking strip club.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much peak, like, when people say, like, ignorant music, like, this is kind of what is the apex of that.
Talked about on the Gucci episode applies here too, is like, this dude has it down to a science in terms of how to do this well.
Mm-hmm.
At this point. Like, it's, I don't want to say assembly line, but like, it kind of feels like it's weird because you listen to these 3 tapes in a row, it feels a little bit like an assembly line because they are really the same fucking thing over and over and over and over. But he does it very, very well. Like, it's really the same format, the same flow every time. But he does it very well.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys have made all the great points. Like,
he is not varying this up. Like, Juicy does not vary this up.
No, it's like you guys want a great beat with tales of, you know, selling Adderall.
I'm going to fuck this stripper. I'm going to sell you drugs. I'm going to smoke weed with you and sell you more drugs. And I'm going to talk about it with 16 bars and give you a 2-bar hook about how I fucked you and sold you drugs.
And would you like a Project Pat feature with that, or would you like a 2 Chainz feature with that? You know, would you like a Space Ghost?
We'll have like a half clever pun about my watch. My watch is heavy,
and it's a vibe. It's just a vibe.
It works. It just works. Like,
I do appreciate that he threw that Creation feature in there too, though, because like
the Creation feature is one of the times I realized that everybody's rapping like Wiz. By the way, because I think she thinks she's rapping like Juicy, but she's rapping like Wiz.
Yeah, she feels like very emblematic of that era to me for some reason.
Yeah, no, 100% rapping like Wiz, or maybe rapping like Cudi, but like
you can't really tell.
Yeah, like she's just rapping like somebody on drugs. Like, that's it. Like, but I think she thinks she's rapping like she's 3-6 Mafia. Like, she's doing that. She's doing the ad lib. She's doing all that stuff. But like, she's doing the cadence. She's rapping like Wiz Khalifa. Or it just.
When I listened to it the other night too, I totally forgot that Stoner's Night was a Harry Fraud beat.
Hold up, man. Juicy J from Taylor Gang. I've listened to that song so many times.
I mean,
it's an impressive lineup of like producers and features.
I mean, there's that kind of lineup though on a lot of these tapes. Not some of like the lower tier ones, but even as you get down into the later Juicy J stuff, like I think he kind of had a lull in the mid 2010s where it was a lot of like fine music, but it wasn't really rising above the
I mean,
You know?
he can always produce his own stuff to sound fine. Like, he can always, like, that's the thing, is like, he's a professional. Again, he can do the assembly line, but, and
Yeah.
when to stay trippy, that's the thing about it, is he's so cynical about it. Like, he knows what works.
Mm.
Yeah, the mixtapes were whatever, but Stay Trippy was notable for sure.
For sure. Do we just want to talk about Stay Trippy?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't do it in a while, but I'd be down to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Did not remember that this had a Justin Timberlake song on here where he talks about like bestiality.
Oh shit, and it's called The Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of the Woods.
He has Chris Brown on here. It's not a Chris Brown. He pays Chris Brown to rap. Yeah, we got a Chris Brown rap on here. Yellow Wolf is like doing the Yellow Wolf like tries to be both Juicy and Eminem on his Yellow Wolf feature.
Why the fuck does DJ Paul love Yellow Wolf so much?
I don't know.
Yeah, he shows up on a bunch of Paul projects.
Yeah. They collaborate a lot. And I've never understood it.
Yeah, man. There's so much compromise on this. It's really
Yellow Wolf is just like Memphis's Eminem. Like they tried to adopt him. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like they like he genuinely, liked him, and he has an appreciation for it. But I don't. I never liked Yellow Wolf, so I didn't get it.
Yeah, could not get into him.
Yellow Wolf is like the world's worst Quentin Tarantino, where it's like he just keeps going and making blaxploitation stuff, and it's like it's cool, but except it's like Memphis stuff. I don't know.
It seems unnecessary.
It's even more. Somehow I insulted Quentin Tarantino.
It's like an approximation of.
I mean, yeah, like I think you get what I was going for with that, and then like I somehow wanted to insult Quentin Tarantino, but I still felt bad for him when I was making that connection. Because
it's a little. It's like when he like his solo albums to me always felt like they're competent, but I was never.
Oh no, they're bad. They're really bad. No, they're really bad.
Well, no. I mean, like the one that people like the trunk music one.
Like that. Like he has one where it's like there's like he has like Kid Rock and Lil Jon on a song or something.
Oh, he did some country ones that were horrendous. Yeah, I'm not. I am not a Yellow Wolf guy.
DJ Muggs album, dude. He got a whole album of DJ Muggs. That's not fair. That's not fair.
I did not know that happened until now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry that's how this episode has to end, is that you learned that Yellow Wolf got a DJ Muggs album.
Yeah, and I also didn't know that, so now my disappointment is immeasurable. Oh god.
God damn it. Like this, like I didn't plan this. I didn't plan for you people to know this.
Well, there are better. I mean, Stay Trippy, I think we all agree, has problems.
Oh yeah, no, it has a lot of them, and most of them, like Yellow. Yellow Wolf is really. Why is
it was some bad mainstream features. Like, what is Trey Songz doing on one of these songs? Like,
why is Juicy rapping like Wale? Why is Wale there in the first place?
Big Sean, Young Jeezy.
Oh, that Big Sean feature, dude. Okay. I said I had some edits for my review. I said Big Sean was tolerable in my review. Big Sean is not tolerable. Big Sean is really, really bad on this feature. Big Sean sucks. This is one of those Big Sean features.
Saying Big Sean tolerable is like saying like.
Oh no, this is one of those real like I think Big Sean has gotten tolerable in recent times. This is not one of those Big Sean features. This is bad.
This is 2013 Big Sean.
Yeah, no. This is like Marvin and Chardonnay Big Sean. This is real bad.
God, that's tough.
Yeah, I have to.
It's real tough. Real tough.
Not remember a lot of these songs.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I regret listening to this album. I had a much higher opinion of this album before I re-listened to it. The Justin Timberlake song made me really mad.
Can't be good.
I haven't heard it in a while.
Thinking about bestiality, man. There's no other way to take that. No other way to take that.
So he's out in the woods and
he's out. He's
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's tough. No longer eager to revisit, but
Yes,
I'm glad that you did for the purpose of alerting me to.
I got no more desire to revisit this one. Like, just
I'm pretty sure the second track is decent, the one with Pimp C, but that's all.
The 3-6 stuff on here is good. Like, Juicy raps real well on it. Like, Juicy's rapping good on this. Like, just bad decisions.
Yeah, and also, I will say too, like, this was probably he built up the buzz with the mixtapes and things. This was probably the pinnacle of like his comeback in terms of like early to mid 2010s popularity, because then there was like another little dip after this until he did some of the last couple years where he had like, you know, mainstream features but also better features.
I feel like he actually was being like calculated with this, and I think this was smart in a way. I don't want to hear it. I want to move on. Like, it didn't age well. We'll just say this didn't age well. This is old milk. Move on.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it because we had the dip in the mid 2010s with Juicy, where it was like a lot of that music didn't move the needle for me. Like, it was fine, but it didn't move the needle for me. But then, like, he kind of came back with his last couple projects, like the Rubber Band Business one from 2017, which had one of my favorite like 2010s 3-6 related songs, like Flood Watch, the one with Offset.
Flood Watch is great.
Yeah, just the way it comes in, it actually was like my I use it as an alarm for a few months at one point around the time it came out because it's very like propulsive.
Yeah, it is so fucking good.
It's just like the piano lead. It's very, and it doesn't like, you know, it's not super aggressive. So that's kind of why I had it down. But
I need
that one was very memorable.
Yeah, that's a great hook.
But then you also had Kama Sutra.
Oh God!
Yeah.
What the fuck? What? You knew what you were doing when you mentioned that on the show. Fuck you.
There was that. I was trying to avoid it, but it's tough. At least it didn't. That one didn't make that album, did it? It was a single. Like, I don't think that one made that album, but yeah.
I'm not engaging with this discussion.
I heard that one once, never again. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, you know, it happened. It certainly happened. All right.
And then we had there was the last two, which is just The Hustle Continues, which is kind of another solid project. It had a few unfortunate features, but it still had some good songs on there. And then the Wiz collab from this year.
Yeah, the Wiz collab this year, which I really like. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. I really like this. I think it's a nice nostalgia project. I like it. If you like him and Wiz together, I think it's really cool.
It reminded me of like what was the Wiz project with Currency from a few years ago?
2009.
Yeah. It really reminded me of that because it just seemed like both artists in their comfort zone, like playing off each other really well. So I think I underrated it my first listen. I upped that recently, so I'm glad I listened to it.
Yeah, I'm actually on a kick of going back to old Currency, and it's all like really good shit.
Right. Don't promote the new Currency except for the new one. Yeah. So listen to older.
All
right. I don't really.
Would there? I guess just before we kind of dismount here for John, would there be like a project that maybe we didn't spend that much time on? Is there anything that you would also recommend like the people listen to from these non-main Group 3-6 albums?
Okay. Honestly, the easiest way to do this is just go through like Juicy J and DJ Paul's like production credits.
Yeah. And you'll find something, and even if it's not like a 3-6, member or affiliate, we had that conversation a little while earlier in the episode where we mentioned how there's a long void of rabbit hole of other Memphis artists that were in that same kind of headspace, but maybe didn't get like a 3-6 feature or what have you. So there's plenty of good.
Anything in that lane is fair game for sure.
We didn't talk about it, but the Gangsta Black album from 1996 is really good.
Yeah, and it's got a great cover too. It's got a very distinct cover.
Yeah.
Check it. I gotta check it.
Oh yeah, he's standing in front of the airplane and the
mansion, right?
Yeah.
Sounds.
Yeah,
heavy.
that one's classic era to me.
And honestly, once you you mentioned just like production credits, clicking on genre tags, things like that. I mean, there's a wealth of stuff out there, and that's thankfully being put out there after being dug up. So
Right.
From 2002, there's the Head Buses, which is DJ Paul, Juicy J, and Fiend.
yes,
You may remember as a No Limit rapper.
And also got up with Jet Life later in his career. So.
Oh yeah. They have an album from 2002 that's like on the side, like 3-6 universe. It's pretty good.
yeah, I've listened to it. It's good. Fiend had a good.
If you listen to the first track on TJ Shadow's Diminishing Returns, I think that's knock your ass out with some head buses.
That's good shit.
Ass out with some head buses.
If you're getting really deep into it, Fraser Boy album from 2003.
Wait, we're actually doing Fraser Boy, so okay, fine.
It's pretty good. It's starting to get into like the crunk sound, but it's like right in between that era.
I mean, I'll trust you on the production. I don't like Fraser Boy as a rapper. I find him like kind of.
He's completely unmemorable, but yeah, the production's pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree because he's part of the Hypnotized camp.
Right, that was
He's like barely
3-6 kind of like falling off rap wise, but yeah, like I could still see like yeah.
Like I can't remember like a single thing about his rapping, but
yeah, I know, I got it.
And then I mean, if you want to go down the little white rabbit hole, feel free.
Yeah,
that's a phrase and a half, but
it's kind of that's definitely like a your mileage may vary thing.
But definitely check out his album from 2003.
Yeah, I like that album a lot, but I would understand if someone didn't like it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my general take.
And
that's pretty much it, I think. Or
yeah.
I mean, didn't talk about the Kazi albums on the last podcast. I don't think.
I think we might have hinted at them, but we didn't go in.
Yeah.
But those are obviously worth listening to, and should be easy connecting points in the midst of the main group albums.
All right.
But thanks everybody for the feedback from part 1, because I definitely think it inspired us to do a part 2 for sure. I mean, we wanted to, but I really appreciated hearing and seeing all the feedback in the comments and everything. So
actually, not to be an asshole. Yeah, thank you guys for everything. And if nothing else, I really hope everybody checks out the Tommy Wright III albums because he really deserves your support. If you can see him live, please do so. He really deserves your support. His albums are excellent. I don't know where you can buy them. You can buy them physically. Please do so.
On Facebook.
Yeah, support him on Facebook. I don't believe he has Bandcamp. Maybe you can find him on his website. Either way. But we are living off borrowed time. Thank you, John, by the way. lookAghost on RYM. Our intro music, Borrowed Time by Billy Woods, and our outro music is Stagnated Pace by Can Kick. We are living off borrowed time. Peace.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 Stop.
will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.